One of the biggest issues with Wizard101 right now is how complicated their spells have become. And you don't need me to tell you this. If you mouse over some of the newest spells that they've made, are they cool? Absolutely. A double school pip spell that does 3 types of damage and echoes 2 different mechanics. The nerd in me is losing it. But for a casual player, they look at this and they see literal hieroglyphics. This is a problem that's bothered me for literally ages now. But the other day I was scrolling through the subreddit and I saw this post and everything. It's like the light came from the heavens. This has to be one of the coolest ideas I've ever seen. I wanted to give credit first off to PK Hacker, the person that posted it on Reddit, and whoever made this, he said his friend made it. But in this post, they basically made like a concept of what it would look like if Wiz added a feature that told you what the cards did when you moused over them. And this had a lot of people talking, surprisingly, some positive and negative takes on this, so I just really wanted to weigh in, get y'all to talk about it. In my opinion, the conversation around what cards do is really a conversation around casual players and the ambition that the devs have to make the game have a high skill ceiling. It's an extremely hard balancing act, right? You have people that, maybe have started out the game or haven't even figured out how the game works. And this isn't a hard thing to relate to. I'm gonna be honest, for the vast majority of the time I played this game, I had menu chat. I had no one explaining me to how anything worked. I didn't know how blades worked. I didn't know how enchants worked. I didn't know how any of it worked, right? I was just playing the game, having fun, and honestly, it was great. And then fast forward a few years, and I know what all the symbols do. I know what all the combos are. For that progression to have happened, Wiz does have some sort of low ground when it comes to casual, and it has like a high ground when it comes to a skill ceiling. But recently, especially with all these spellman changes, there's just a lot of symbols to understand and a lot of things that casual players are going to be struggling with. So I think something like in that Reddit post in combat would be a really good idea. I think the best thing they could do is add it like a little toggle feature, like something like you could do with textures in Wiz. And this would be nothing really new, right? Like remember when they did the retexture of Wizard City and Krakatopia and all of that? It's a classic example of modernizing the game a little bit more, but also making sure that it's an option. So if you're really in it for the basic, the classic, the nostalgia, all you'd have to do is turn classic mode on and voila, right? Now you can see Wizard City as it used to be, right? I mean, obviously this doesn't look as good in my opinion, but for a lot of people, this was an option that, it served as like a balancing act for people that liked the classic mode and didn't like the new texture. But I'm gonna be honest, I'm of the opinion that they need to go a lot further than just while you're in combat tell you what each spell does, even with an option. I feel like there needs to be a complete focused update on this, because I genuinely think that it's the one thing that stops people from trying any form of advanced combat in this game. I think in your spell book, when you mouse over anything with any symbols, it should just tell you what the card does. And I also think that instead of putting it in the tutorial where they currently do, right, they have like this little help button, a little tutorial thing where you can go through what every spell symbol does. It doesn't really explain all the symbols they use, by the way. It just explains most of them, right? Instead of all of this complicated stuff, I think when you open your deck, similar to how there's a small ass quick sell button, there should be a spell icon info, and it just pops up and tells you, oh, this icon, it's a charm icon, it means blade. This, oh, it's a weakness icon, it means infection or weakness, right? There should be a very maybe simple 2-click process for you just to know what the symbols do. And then there should be an option outside of combat where you can mouse over this stuff and see what it does in a word-by-word explanation. And then there should be another setting like in the Reddit post where maybe you can mouse over a card for an extended period of time and it tells you exactly what the card does. And I think the idea would be that, maybe you can toggle which options you want so that, it's not too big of a deal for you to if you don't like it, it shouldn't intrude. If you do need it, then, you can have easy access to it. What a complete update of this, what it would look like, in my opinion, is you have a directory for people that don't like captions on their spells. You should have captions outside of combat and have captions inside of combat and have the ability to toggle through those settings. It should be that customizable, because I do get it. There was a lot of people that are saying, yo, I don't really like when my spells look cluttered. The default can't be that you mouse over something and you see a paragraph in front of your face. But at the same time, some people need that to start off, right? So it very much needs to be a toggle option, and it needs to have customizable rates at which it intrudes in your gameplay, right? Because for some people it is intrusive, for some people they need it. I think for for me, this issue really got a little out of hand when they added this spell into the game. If y'all don't know about this, it's not like a crazy consequential spell. They added like a bundle and the wand. This is a card that it gives. And even if you know what all the symbols at all the schools are, it would still probably be pretty hard for you to know what this card does without literally using it. And that's really the reason why this feature is so needed, right? Someone like me, the reason I know what all the symbols do is because of the sheer number of times I've cast a spell and it didn't do what I thought it would do. Failure was my teacher, and honestly, a lot of players probably have a lot less patience than someone who literally streams and makes videos on this game for a living. So if they do want to keep adding really cool spells, like one spell that does 7 things, like that's really cool, but they need to do this feature, right? They need to add something that really explains it to you like you're 12. And I'm not trying to tell them, like, you know, how to schedule their updates, but I feel like the last update, they had a really large focus on advanced content versus standard content. We're talking about the fact that they added a second raid, that they added actual like rule sets to various sigils at the end of worlds, like those little like dungeons basically. And they classified all of that and PvP under advanced combat, right? They're really trying to brand one part of the game as more advanced, where you might want to know what these symbols do. You might want to invest in all of these various spellman paths. If there truly is a concerted effort to push advanced combat onto the player, especially for the casual player that wants to make that transition, they need to have the tools in place to do that. I think this is a problem that will genuinely hold back Wiz if they don't actually address it now rather than later. This is, in my opinion, especially pertinent right now after this update. I actually think this last update was a little bit more divisive than usual, and I really haven't talked about this, but for a lot of people, it is simply too hard to even understand the first step for getting into a raid, for example. You don't need to go further than the final battle of Novus, right? That's main storyline content where knowing the symbols helps you a lot to know that most of the people that play this game, the game's moving faster than they're able to keep up. And it's gotten to the point where purely it's a numbers game. If 90% of the community doesn't know what half the spells do, it doesn't matter if the 10% that do understand it can use it to the ability they're intended, right? And that's really the issue. I think it's more of almost like a social issue than a game design issue at this point. All I know is that if 14-year-old menu chat me was doing waterworks and I actually had some explanation for, you know, what an AoE even was, maybe I would have been a little bit more helpful. That's all I'm saying. I think this could fix a lot more issues than they're aware of. I would love to hear y'all's opinions on this. I think it's a very popular opinion these days that the game looks very complicated for an old school player. If you are one of those players, do you guys think this is a type of feature that you would use to maybe explore other parts of the game? And on the flip side, do you guys think that this could make the game feel cluttered? Or do you think maybe they could mess up the toggle settings and maybe that could be a different experience and you don't want that? I don't know. There's a lot of opinions on this. People seem to have a lot of different views on this, but let me know what you guys think of a feature like this. I look forward to reading all of y'all's comments. Stay awesome, y'all. See y'all soon. Thank you for the love, and yeah.